It's hilarious. Today is a high of 80 degrees and sunny, beautiful day in Southern California. And at our home in Kentucky, it is a high of 30 degrees Fahrenheit and it's currently snowing. We just checked our security cameras and I saved a little clip because I was like, this is crazy. It's just such an interesting contrast, obviously so many miles away in different climates. We're missing home a little bit. We wish that we were at home, kind of like setting up our Christmas tree or just enjoying our house there as it's cold and cozy. But we are absolutely loving our time out here in Southern California. So it's Monday morning. This is technically week 11, day 1 of our build assist on our Sling TSI. And really, I'll be honest with you, I have no idea what today or the rest of this week is going to entail. We're in that 90% done, 90% to go phase. So it's really, everything is coming together. It's lots of minutia connecting the dots. Some big stages that are going to be coming up here soon. Finish up the interior, which I think Ken was working on that on Friday afternoon. And he and I will continue gluing some carpet into the airplane. He took care of all the hard parts. He's also very experienced, so I was like, I'm gonna let you do those far back pieces of carpet because my clumsy self is gonna get glue on the carpet and then there's gonna be little spots that need to be cleaned up and all that kind of stuff. So I let him take care of all of that. Interior is gonna get finished, windshield's gonna go in at some point, the panel is already in and everything's wired up. I installed the camera mounts and camera power supplies last week, and like honestly, that's a phase of this build and the customization that I was so jazzed about. So that got done and I was like, I felt very at peace, like, okay, this airplane's ready for seamless filming. It looks like the vertical stabilizer is on. Last week before we left, the horizontal stab and the elevator got put on. I think what Chelsea and I will probably work on a little bit today is installing the remainder of the ailerons and flaps to verify spacing's good and we have the correct hardware in there according to the manual. But beyond that, I don't know. Let's see what else is in store for today, what other milestones we're gonna cross on this beautiful Monday morning here in Torrance, California. Let's get to work. Run me through what you've worked on so far today.
Yep. So, first I did this leather piece right here, and then next we're gonna put this leather piece to cover all these gaps. It's gonna go like that. And I also finished this right here, and I also finished the final parts of this. So it's this, and this.
Sweet.
But yeah.
So then you're about to tackle that other piece,
Yep.
the seat
So
stuff back there.
I'm about to get this one. And then yeah, we're gonna put this leather piece up, and then it's gonna be looking like it's about to fly.
Heck yeah.
So towards the beginning of our build process, before everything got painted and looked so beautiful, we installed these brackets, or the riv nuts, to receive these brackets that will become home to our lights. So after everything got painted, the brackets got installed here. So these are the Aero LED pulsar lights. They're nav, anti-collision, and position lights that are gonna live on the left and right wing. We also have a beacon on the top of the tail, which they have just started selling in red recently. So that is available on the Watt or Aero LED website. And we're just gonna go ahead, these have been hooked up, and we're gonna go ahead and test them and then install it right here.
So here's the wiring diagram. It's one big binder that Midwest Panel Builders whipped up, and it's basically the entire wiring harness for the airplane. Everything shows, you know, this GA24 for the EIS system. Just every page is really well labeled on what it covers. These are Wing 1 and Wing 2 connectors. So these are called CPC, or circular plastic connectors, and this is what the real thing looks like. So this is the harness coming to the connector out of the co-pilot or the starboard wing, and there's a connector just like this that's actually on the wing root of the fuselage there. So looking at the pinout here, there are numbers on the right side of the connector, and you basically go from right to left for the numbering. So there's 1, 3, 7, etc., and it goes down the rows. So it goes pins 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it starts at 7, 8, 9, 10, etc. So I'm gonna look at this, and it says wing side and cabin side. We're looking at the wing side, and that's how we're going to use a power supply to put power to the correct pins to test the lights that are on the end of the wing. So I need to ground pin 4, which is, reading the numbers, get my bearings, it's that pin right there. So I'll ground that one, and then I will put the positive to pin 1, which will be the nav, and pin 2, which will be the strobe. And we're not going to deal with the sync. The sync simply connects each wingtip together and makes the strobes flash at the same time. So we're not going to deal with that. That can be sorted out and tested with just a simple continuity check later on. But we know that's pretty well connected up. So this is the co-pilot side wing. I also want to check for the correct color in the light. That's a mistake that can happen. You can also read the label. It should say green. There's always a chance that something labeled the light wrong or something like that. This is the co-pilot side wing. So what color should we see? Green. So when I connect ground to pin 4 and power to pin 1, we should see a green light. When I do the same but to pin 2, then we should see a strobe. So that's what we're gonna do now with this power supply. We'll show what it looks like on the other end here, but I know pin 4 is the ground. So number 4 is right there. And then pin 1, I'm gonna make sure these alligator clips do not touch each other. Pin 1, when I do that, we should see a green light. And when I do that, we should see a strobe on that end. And then when we do it to the other wing, which is the pilot or port side wing, we should see white flashing strobe on pin 2, red light on pin 1. I'm gonna give you the nav first.
Oh my gosh. He just hooked it up to where we are seeing the nav, but we're also seeing the position. So the position light here on the rear portion of the light to act as our 3-point position system. We're getting 2 of the colors here. So we're getting our green light as well as our white light. And then he's getting ready to hook up the other pin so that we can have our anti-collision or our strobes. It's like lighting up all the walls. Whew. That is insanely bright. This is where it's gonna be permanently installed. But we just wanted to check everything. Josh is using a power supply on the other end.
Yeah,
that looks
nice,
beautiful.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay, ready? There's the nav and the position, and there's the strobe. Good morning, it is November 11th. It's week 11, day 2 of our build assist here on our Sling TSI. I screwed something up yesterday, and it's gonna cost me some time today to take some step backwards and actually fix it. In my opinion, if you're building an airplane, you're building an experimental home built airplane, if you're not willing to take the time to do it right, you have no business doing it at all. So while I was working with Ken yesterday, we were putting some upholstery in the back, just a little trim piece that covers up the boundary where the fiberglass kind of makes a curve and meets the outer skins. Right in that area, there is a piece of aluminum that's covered in the cognac colored leather that gets screwed in. But in order to screw it in, you have to drill all the holes to sink nut rivets in. Normally there are a couple of wires back behind the fiberglass, but they're tucked in this little channel that's molded into the fiberglass. I replaced those wires from the factory with a bigger cable that has 6 wires in it because we have USB-C power supplies in the ceilings. So in drilling the holes yesterday, I was drilling the small pilot holes that were going to be the size of the screws, and then I have to come in later and upsize those holes to fit the nut rivets. But because I had that bigger cable in there, the drill bit actually caught the edge of the cable just the way it happened to be laying in there. And the drill bit damaged the insulation and the shielding, and it might have damaged some of the actual wires. I tested everything works just fine, but that's not to say that there could be an exposed wire now and it may touch a ground. It literally bothered me all of yesterday evening, and I know if I don't take care of that now, it's just gonna bug me forevermore. She has a bag of poop in her hand. I can't turn a blind eye to that and hope that I didn't damage a wire. I can't let that go in good conscience. I'm gonna work on that this morning. Chelsea's gonna work with Eric on either the empennage or the wings, basically having to do with airframe and control surface mounting stuff permanently. So she's gonna work on that with him today. This is the cabling that I'm gonna swap that with. So that needs to be run up through there to that light. It's gonna be a pain in the butt. You can see how little space there is to work with. So I just removed this dome light and can start gently pulling the wires down. This is where everything is spliced in and splits out to all the different locations. So it's this big cable that I need to swap. And you can see it disappears into this little tunnel and drops all the way down here. Comes out right there. So that's what I need to cut. I need to pull a new one through because it was when I drilled this hole right here. I clipped it and damaged the insulation. So that's what I'm gonna spend the next few minutes doing. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and snip this. I disconnected the airplane battery, both sides, ground first, then the positive. And then I have plenty of slack up there, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut this right here and hope I don't regret it. And then I'm gonna get ready to cut this. And I'm gonna use a solder sleeve, or a solder splice, whatever people normally call them. And basically solder these wires together, get it such that I can comfortably pull this cable through. And if it comes apart in the middle of the channel, it's gonna be a project getting it out of there. But I'm gonna hook it up right here and hopefully I'll just be able to pull it all the way through. Fingers crossed that this is gonna go smoothly on the first try. Glad I checked it.
So Eric just gave me his blessing on this. He said it all looks good, so I'm gonna start tightening everything. And he said that we're gonna wait to install the push-pull rod onto the elevator. In an industry where there is very, very, very slim and sometimes no margin for error, Aviation has built in and engineered many, many levels of redundancy with so many of its systems and really, really, really important control areas, both with the airframe and with the engine. But there are certain points of the aircraft that are a single point failure, and this would be one of them. Right here where this elevator gets hooked up, there is only one bolt and one control push-pull rod that actually meets the elevator here. And so whenever you're doing your walk-arounds, or if you're a mechanic and you're doing, any sort of maintenance, or if you're an IA and you're doing inspections, you're paying close attention to everything throughout the control system, which is absolutely critical.
We got a package from Wheeling Aerospace. All right, and we have two Par 36 Prometheus G3 LED taxi lights and two Par 36 LED landing lights. Difference between taxi light and landing light, kind of interesting. So this is a landing light, this is a taxi light. You can see the difference is the taxi light, if you look at the diodes there, the taxi light has like a vertical refraction sort of pattern in it, and that allows the light to diffuse and spread out. The landing light, if I turn it just right, you can see the focused yellow core of the diodes. So like if I step way back here, I can't even see it, I might be doing this wrong on the camera, but like without the reflection, you can see at a certain spot, it's nothing but yellow inside the reflectors. Whereas back here, there's like a much wider range where you can see the yellows. So when you turn on the taxi light, you get kind of like a wash, like a floodlight of light. That'll come from the taxi lights, and then the landing lights are more like focused spotlights. Taxi, floodlight, landing light, spotlight. This has a good solder splice on it that's actually melted. And I'm gonna try and just start feeding it through. All right, we're through. Wow, is that really it? Literally, that's it. That's the one tiny little spot that got nicked. That is where the drill bit caught it. And it didn't even look that bad. I peeled it back with my fingernail a little bit. Looked way worse through the hole because that's all I could see. So I guess my brain assumed it was bigger. But I'll be curious to peel that back and just see if it broke any of the wires. I highly, highly doubt it. So really, it was kind of unnecessary to pull that through, but we did the right thing. All new cable all the way through here. So here's the new end of it, and it'll get spliced down there. Let that solder spread through there. I want to let these cool off for just a second before I start trying to manipulate it and bend it to get it over the other wires, because these could start to like flex and then the wires kind of try to separate before it's all totally cured. Actually try to pull this through just a little bit to give us a little bit of room, and I will start shoving all of that in there once this is totally cooled off. All right, I'm gonna very gently score that insulation, and then you can kind of crack it apart. All right, that's the one coming out of the canopy. Now I have to do that all over again to this one, and then I'm ready to start splicing. So the shielding is this metal, kind of braided woven shield around the cable. That's why it's called a shielding. And then I can just simply cut the shielding away. Kind of tedious, and you got to do it carefully so that you don't accidentally put a cut into one of these wires. So separate the wires from the shielding. All right, we're going to terminate this with heat shield or heat shrink.
I just got done confirming the torque on all 5 of the bolts along this trailing edge portion of the horizontal stabilizer or leading edge portion of our elevator, where those 2 hinges meet, and we have AN4 hardware with a certain stack of washers. Everything through here, I just confirmed it with the torque wrench. Now I'm gonna break down the torque wrench, give everyone their tools back that I borrowed, and I'm always very sure to not leave the torque wrench set and put up, because you're adding that spring tension and it can actually affect the accuracy of your torque wrench over time. So you always want to back your torque wrench off, not all the way to the bottom stop, but you want to back it off to the lowest setting without hitting the stop. Every time I'm doing a pre-flight on a plane, I'm always looking at, the condition and the state of the hardware and the hinges and everything on the control surfaces. But I'm also paying close attention to, if it's not cotter keyed, then it probably has a nylock nut to hold everything on. But I'm also looking for some torque seal, so I'm getting ready to apply that to everything that I just got done torquing. It does 2 things. During the assembly process, we know that it has been torqued, but for years to come, while we're doing our pre-flight walk around, you can look and make sure that that stripe has not been broken and that everything is still in the same state that it was.
I drilled into a wire yesterday, so I just replaced them all.
No, dude.
It did not need to be replaced. I pulled it out and I was like, that's it. It's like the drill bit just kind of like caught the insulation a little bit and exposed the shielding, but it was inside the fiberglass canopy. There's no way it can ground out on anything. But nonetheless, I lost sleep over it.
Yeah, totally.
And I was like, all right. All right, Millie and I just finished our shared peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And Chelsea is currently, she was just working on the vertical stab and, or actually just the elevator at this point. She torque sealed all the bolts and everything. She's gonna start working on the vertical stab and probably the rudder before the end of the day. She is currently going through and applying Bondo to all of these little pull rivet heads that are underneath the wing root. So they're not exposed to any direct elements, but because they're down by the wheels and they're behind the fairing, things can get caught back there, moisture can get caught back there and get inside the rivet heads and into the core of the rivet and potentially start corroding or causing other issues over time if we don't inspect it thoroughly or let it dry out or anything. So she's covering all of those, which is something that isn't normally done, but she got a recommendation from another builder to do that. So she's taking care of that. So in the big box that just arrived is our ballistic recovery system, BRS parachute, which is what this whole thing, this big compartment in the baggage area is for, and this big hole with the blowout plate and these heavy gauge cables attached to the airframe. that is where the parachute goes. That gets installed. That's like one of the last things to go in. But it is here. So that's one of the major components we were waiting on. The parachute's a big, big reason we wanted to go with a sling. It's one of the few kit-built airplanes that is from the factory ready to accept a parachute. It's a factory option to get a parachute, and we opted to go with the option for the ballistic recovery system. It's the exact same parachute system that's used in all the Cirruses. They have different weight limitations and weight categories and all that kind of stuff throughout their products. Takes up a little bit of the baggage area and takes up a little bit of weight in the very back of the airplane, but I mean, are you really going to put a price on your life and everybody else's lives that are riding in your airplane if you have a catastrophic engine failure in a situation where you have no options to land the airplane? Which is, don't kid yourself, there will be times when you have no options of places to land, especially if you fly a single engine at night all the time. No brainer. We do not fly single engine airplanes at night anymore. We don't fly the Cessnas at night, hardly ever anymore. And with all of those safety considerations, just like having seat belts and airbags in modern cars, we're getting a parachute put in our modern airplane. It was a non-negotiable, and I'm very happy that it just arrived. Very nice. Very good. So that's a trim piece in here that just kind of covers up where the fiberglass tapers down and where it's ultimately riveted to the aluminum. And that covers up that boundary. I love the fact that all these interior pieces can come out by taking little machine screws out. I hate it when interior, it's a big reason that I don't like dealing with working on interiors in a car or even in a plane, because a lot of them are using those like little clips, or in cars they're plastic, and airplanes they're like the metal diamond shaped clips that snap into a hole, and you ream out the hole, you wear out the clip every time you take it apart. This is like, just get a little hand tool, gently take the screws out, gently put the screws back in, and everything just stays nicely intact. Don't gum up the threads or anything, you don't gum up the hole, the hardware, or the piece. And it all comes together and comes apart and goes back together really nicely. Another item that arrived today from Midwest Panel Builders is our throttle quadrant. So we have throttle, prop control, and the handbrake. Already has the master cylinder connected onto the assembly here, and Midwest designed a little bracket to hold this parking brake valve. This is normally how a TSI works. The parking brake is right here, and it's just a hydraulic valve that basically locks the pressure into the brake line. But this is actually a check valve, so that when you have the parking brake on, and if you start to roll or the system starts to lose a little bit of pressure because you maybe have a leak or a little bit of air in the line that you didn't know about or something, even with the parking brake in the on position, it will still let fluid run one way but not the other. So you can still pull the brake and re-energize the system without having to turn it off. The old valve, when it was in the on position, it would block fluid from going both ways. So with the valve in the on position, you cannot add pressure to the hydraulic lines by pulling the handbrake. So you can re-energize it without doing that. Just a little safety feature. So you don't have to like scramble to turn the brake off and then pull the brake handle to re-energize and reapply the brakes. This way you can have it on, apply pressure right there. And just like the rest of the panel too, all of this is backlit except for the logo. Everything else is backlit. Relatively short briefing this morning. It's week 11, day 3, and we're getting started on some work here. Ken's back today, so he's already working on assembling the center console for the airplane, gluing leather on and stuff like that. Chelsea and maybe myself, depending on what else needs to be done, I might be helping Ken. She's going to continue working on the vertical stabilizer, getting that bolted in place, making the electrical connections, and then putting the rudder on. So hanging the rudder is like it hangs on the hinges. You drop the bolts in, and it's kind of like a surgical process, getting the washers in place in the correct order and then securing the nuts in there and getting the correct tools in there to secure it. So it should go together pretty easily, and then we may get to working on the control surfaces today, getting those permanently mounted to the wings. I also have a to-do list on my phone of just little things that we think of along the way that we want to get done or we want to prioritize to take care of before a certain section of the airplane gets permanently closed or riveted together, and making sure we check those little items off as we move through the rest of this build process. So this is week week 11, day 3. We're gonna get to work. So here's the empennage. Elevator is in place, and Chelsea put torque seal on all the hardware all the way down. So the vertical stabilizer is clecoed in place, and these are 2 open holes, and then there are 6 more threaded holes, and then there are 4 open holes up there. We just have 2 clecos in, so it's secured in place. I'm gonna go ahead and start bolting it in. So here is a copy of the manual. So it shows that entire assembly going on, and it highlights detailed drawings of E and F. Here's E and F. So E is the rear part of it, which is right here. And I have clecos in the 2 top holes, which are open holes that are going to get a washer and a nylock nut on the rear end of it. And then the remainder of the holes, the other 6 holes, these are going to go into nut plates that are already riveted in to the fuselage assembly, the very tip of the fuselage that's already riveted into the structure there. So those 6 bolts are gonna go into those nut plates that are riveted in place, and then those top 2 bolts are gonna take a washer and an nylock nut on the back of them. And then on the front, detailed drawing F, which is up here, it's just going to be 4 bolts, 4 washers, then 4 washers, then 4 nylock nuts on the inside. So it's gonna be straightforward. They already have all the tools laid out for us. This is actually from yesterday. Here's the rudder right here. So the rudder will go on next, which I believe, yep, is the next page, rudder installation. So we'll get to that in just a little bit. And 4 washers and 4 nuts, and we have the bolts here of various lengths that we'll need. And it calls out exactly which ones to be using here. So we're gonna get to work on it. I'm just getting these snug. I am not tightening them down. They'll need to be torqued, and then torque seal will need to be applied to them once it's all said and done. All right, the connector with 4 conductors. And then we've got a coax for the nav antennas. It goes together right there. All right. All right, I got most of the bolts in and snug. They are not torqued, and when they do get torqued, they'll get white torque seal put on them to indicate that they have been torqued down. So,
anyways, so yeah, I'm just gonna have you just hold one side, and then we're like stretch it out. Yeah. Because no matter what, this part will be exposed. Just trying to minimize. Now put it down like this. Okay. And then I'll hold this side, and then we'll just. I would say this is probably the hardest part.
yeah, I remember you always talking about that. The console being a pain in the butt.
Yeah, try like.
All right.
No.
Nice.
So this is the only control surface on the TSI that is controlled by cables, not just push rods and bell cranks.
Mm-hmm. Which is what gives this airplane such a sport car type feel. I'm not willing to wait. I'm going to turn on the beacon.
Let's try it out. Did you turn it on?
Mm-hmm. That should be ground right there. That's putting out 5 volts. Okay, well that circuit's off and it's still getting 5 volts. Turn the master off. Now it's getting 2.5 volts. 2 volts. It's discharging, yeah. It's slowly discharging. So when the master's on, that's getting 5 volts. We go master on. I'm gonna turn on the strobe switch. All right, getting 5 volts on that terminal still. Something might be hooked up wrong. Well, something's obviously hooked up wrong.
We turn it on and we check here at the wing. So Josh just pulled the diagram and we're getting ready to do that. This is the same diagram we used the other day to put power on the wings to check the lights themselves, which are currently installed. But he's gonna check.
That had 12 volts.
Here at the wing, and he just said it has 12 volts.
Nav and strobe here is working. Okay. It's going up. This is coming out of the plane. This is building an airplane. We're troubleshooting why the beacon is not coming on, which is this little guy right here. If we didn't test it, obviously, then we would have put all the hardware on, and then you know, that would be an inopportune time to notice after it's all torqued and that kind of thing. So that's why we wanted to test it, make sure that the light was gonna work, and sure enough, it did not. So we just did a bunch of continuity checks, and now expert Omar over here is starting to plug in a computer to the VPX, and he's gonna see if maybe something is mismapped, because we traced continuity, the connectors are good, the wires are good, so we don't think anything's mispinned. So he's about to do some diagnosing in the VPX, which is the remote breaker system, the solid state breaker system in this airplane, and just see if it's like a configuration mistake, and hopefully that's what it'll be, and then it will send the proper voltage back to the connector. But is building an airplane, trying to work through little issues. So right now he checked how the VPX was configured with a computer plugged into it, and everything was mapped correctly. So now we are checking, he is checking continuity from the tail connector up to the rack connector to make sure that there is good continuity and see if it's pinned in the right place. And if it's not, he can check continuity between the pins and find which one it is connected to, and then some pins can get switched if something did get mispinned. That would be a good best case scenario. That'd be an easy swap, relatively easy. EIS 8B22. All right, we had two cables that were pinned wrong. When I say cables, I mean we had to take 4 wires out of the connector and another 4 wires out of the connector, and we had to totally switch them in their positions. So there were actually 8 wires in the wrong spot. Okay, there it is. All right. So yesterday I finished out the afternoon with working with Omar to figure out why the tail beacon was not able to come on. And we figured out that it was 2 4-wire cables, 2 4-core cables that were in the tail connector, and they were in the wrong spot with each other. So we had to depin 8 wires and switch them. So we just kind of like started from the beginning, and he read off, okay, this wire goes to this pin, this wire goes to this pin. And I put them in the correct spot. We plugged it in, and right as I got up on the ladder holding the rudder and plugged in the beacon and he flipped on the switch to verify that it worked, the camera died. And I just did not have it in me to replace the battery and redocument that process, so we just called it a day. It is Thursday morning and we're gonna get back to work on the airplane. One thing we did yesterday was we dropped off the door handles for the airplane. So these are just the little rotating latches that will pull the hooks on the canopy doors forward and backward in order to engage the latch and lock the door. 2 of these kits, there's like a whole rod assembly with hooks and latches and everything that come with this so that it all goes together into the doors of the airplane. But they have separate keys for the 2 separate latches. So I took them to a locksmith just down the road here, and they charged me 25 bucks to key both of these to the same key. Beyond that, I'm gonna go ahead and hang the rudder today. Chelsea's probably gonna continue working on filling some of those little holes in the rivet heads that are gonna be underneath the wing root. And then I think Ken is gonna continue working on some interior stuff. Omar is probably gonna start getting to work on some interior wiring and rigging for like cables like the propeller control, throttle, all that kind of stuff. There might be a lot of things happening today. It might be a little bit sporadic because everybody's kind of working on different projects, but I am gonna start working on that rudder assembly here pretty soon, and then we'll go from there. We'll see what's in store for today, right? We've worked at the build center here for, I think, 45 days. Not consecutively, but
It feels consecutively.
45 days at this point. I went through the catalog from the first day we started working with Bill, and I have a description of what we did every day, our little logbook.
That's our build log.
It's basically our build log. Of course, we have a video record of the build too. So we're gonna divide and conquer.
It's a little sunnier today. I'm happy about that. It's been a little gloomy.
It'll be sunny and 70. All right, gonna prep to hang the rudder here. So it's gonna call for 3 AN 410 millimeters, and we're gonna put a thick washer on the shank of each one. And then that's how we'll drop them in. Beacon. Bam.
My gosh.
Yeah, that's nice and bright.
Woo. And it's like very visible from all around.
Yeah, I'm looking at it back here, and that's got nice throw of light. We'll look at it from a distance in a minute. All right, off, off. I've got the weight of the rudder, so.
Can you spin it that way?
Just manipulate it wherever it needs to go. Did it drop through?
Almost.
Pretty simple. It's just, it's 4 thick washers, thick, then in between each layer you get another thick. And then
Wow.
a thick on the bottom, and then a nylock nut.
All right.
So everything you're going to use is basically in the containers.
Okay.
You can just move it around.
Okay.
Or you can just take the whole table as well. Very personal.
Okay.
Just want to try and get that guy in there. One more thick washer. All right, that one is finger tight up to the end of the nylon. The prop has arrived. A little bit of a chillier day today, and I'm actually standing out here in the drizzle. It's week 11, day 5. It's Friday morning, and we're getting started on the airplane here. What's also happening today is across the taxiway at Sling Pilot Academy, they are ingesting their November class. So there's a bunch of brand new students there. They're doing their kind of orientation thing. It's the next batch of students, all these Sling 2s out here, when the weather gets a little bit nicer, are gonna be flying like crazy. If you wanna check out Sling Pilot Academy, their enrollment form and scholarship applications are linked down below. And if you use referral code Aviation101 on either of those forms, you'll get $1,000 off your full-time pilot training course right here at Sling Pilot Academy. What's on the agenda for our Sling TSI today? So I think Chelsea and I are going to finish putting on the rest of the hardware on the wings. We're gonna get those snugged down, make sure the spacing between the flaps and the ailerons, the rivets and the hinges and everything is right where we want it to be, because there are some minor adjustments that can be made according to the manual. So we're gonna make sure everything's in the right spot in that regard. Then we're gonna torque all of that hardware down, torque stripe it, and make sure that it's all marked as torqued. Some additional things that are happening today. I think by the end of today, the windshield will be glued in so that it can cure over the weekend. So that'll be really cool to see that windshield. And it's also kind of nerve-wracking to me because like it's this big piece of plexiglass, and now like there's still maintenance happening on the plane and it could get damaged. But this is normal to keep the cellophane stuck to it until it's like ready to go out and do its first engine start and all that kind of stuff. So the propeller is here. I'm not sure when that process is going to begin, but the cables for the throttle and the prop governor are rigged. Firewall forward, they just need to be routed to their final place when the prop governor goes in, and our beautiful 3-blade MT prop is here. We have it kind of tucked underneath the airplane out of the way so nobody can accidentally trip over it or bump into it. Just a bunch of little things happening. So it's just another day here at the build center. Hopefully we're going to see some good visual progress. Week 11, day 5. Let's get to work. Okay, so yesterday, Omar actually hopped in here. Ken finished up the center console, and Omar came in here and went ahead and assembled all of this throttle, prop control for the hydraulic prop governor, and then of course the handbrake and the beautiful leather work here done by Ken. He's standing right behind the camera. This all got done and it looks absolutely awesome. So now the center console is in, kind of cleanly highlights where the pilot seat, co-pilot seat's gonna be, and all of this stuff is getting structurally riveted together. And I mean, it's solid. It is solid. And we've sorted out a couple of electrical issues over the course of this week. We did have to repin the tail connector back here. Got that fixed so the beacon started working, and the windshield is going in after lunch. So that is great. But the center console with the cognac leather looks freaking awesome. I'm so stoked to fly this airplane.
The puppy. We did our trial fitment of the flaps and ailerons. So they are on. Right now they are on as if they would be on for the last time, except we used, junky hardware, not final fitment hardware, to make sure that we had all the proper tolerances and clearances and that everything aligned perfectly. This was not the first time that we did this throughout this process. The controls actually go on several times. So they go on after we build them for the first time to check everything. Then they go on again whenever you get your paint design. And then they might go on twice then. And they'll just go on and off the aircraft with junkier hardware to hang it and tighten everything down. But it's with, you know, these nylock nuts that are not gonna be for the final installation. So everything is on right now as if it were gonna go fly, but this is not our final hardware, but it was our final fitment check. So you can see when I hold the flap at the neutral position, which is how it will be rigged, along with the aileron, we have a beautiful straight line. So everything, once it's on the aircraft and it gets rigged, the controls, the push-pull tubes, everything, it will sit at that perfect neutral position aligned with the wing and the aileron. We have a good gap here. We have good tolerance and clearances everywhere. You know, building a plane, I know we have this whole amazing team here around us, but it is still a slow process. You're gonna do a lot of 1 step forward, 2 step back. You're thinking about, if I change any type of tolerance here, not only what will it immediately change here, you're gonna be thinking about what it's gonna change either further upstream or downstream. And that's applicable with all of your systems, with everything on the aircraft.
All right, windshield's getting ready to go on, so I think the windshield will be first, and then we might get to the doors later today. Eugene here installed many of these windshields. It's already trimmed and ready to go, so they've already had the windshield on the plane and marked everything, gotten it perfectly trimmed around, because it's a rough cut when the windshield shows up, so you have to do a little bit of plexiglass work. So Eugene's the expert on that here. He's already done all that stuff. It's already fitted, and it's now trimmed to the right size, so brought it over, it's got some tape on it, it's ready to go, and basically, I'm gonna just give him a hand kind of getting stuff set up there, padding, masking, all that kind of stuff, and then it'll eventually get set on here. Put a lot of attention to detail in the prep.
Sure, we want to make sure that tape has no bubbles, and that's why we're using rag to have, get our line straight and no air underneath.
So the glare shield is all covered with plastic and masking tape, and he used basically a tongue depressor to push it down underneath the fiberglass where the windshield's gonna go. So what he's doing right now is he is scoring the fiberglass, sanding it by hand, because it's really smooth right now, nicely finished. He wants to score it and rough it up a little bit so that the primer has something to stick to. And then once the primer is down, that gives the adhesive a good base to stick to. So he's working on scoring that up right now, going all around the edge. And then after that, I'm gonna jump in and help on this project and prime the area that he's sanding right now, and he's gonna prime the windshield. And that's gonna prepare everything for the adhesive to go on for the final fitment. So this is nice, our beautiful brand new windshield's about to go on the airplane. So what are you wiping that with?
We're just going to degrease it with alcohol, just to get rid of the dust and all the oils that we don't need, so we can stick our primer on it easier. After that, we can put our windshield on.
Cool.
So we have two different type of primers. So one is for composite, so they mark it as primer 206, and then primer for plastic. So this is plastic glass, so
Okay.
I'm using this for this, and you're going to be using composite for composite.
Cool.
And this serves as a activator, basically.
Okay.
I don't know, I do some sort of reaction in between, so once we put the Sika, it just all
Gotcha.
goes nice and sturdy. Yeah, so you want to shake this
Okay.
very well. Yeah, and this primer stuff, it gets so dry so fast that if you leave it outside of the fridge, it's gonna get dry in like an hour.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then
Wow.
you just
So
throw
this
it
has
away.
to stay in a refrigerator.
Yeah, and one bottle is like $100. It's just insane. Yeah, one time it happened to me. I had like this much left, and I left it outside, and it's just wasted. Unfortunately, yeah. But I was happy it wasn't full bottle, you know.
Yeah.
Now we are prepping our surface for priming, and we wanna basically sand it down, you know, to allow primer to sticks better to it, because once you see like this, like a glossy surface, it doesn't stick to it like too well, because it's like so perfect, it'll just like peel off easily, you know. Okay, our next step, we need to degrease the surface before applying primer. So I'm gonna grab alcohol over here.
Starting to get a little bit tacky.
That's what I've been saying, that it gets really fast.
Starts curing
It
fast.
gets dry, yeah, really fast. So if you leave it outside more than an hour, it's probably gonna be completely dry.
He said this stuff has to be kept in a refrigerator. I was wondering why the can was cold. I was like, is that a chemical reaction going on? Why is it so cold?
Basically, we are opening up the 209 primer that works for plastic glass. I will be applying it with like wiping motions and just to let it dry. It takes around 10 to 15 minutes to cure. Just tiny bit. We don't want to be dripping.
And even though I just finished this portion of it and I have some remaining, I cannot jump in here and help him finish this right away because I actually have a different type. This is meant for composite, which is what I just did there on the fiberglass. And then he's using one that's meant for plastic, which is going on the plexiglass here.
What are you doing tonight when you get home?
Watching some Aviation 101.
Are you gonna be in this one?
I think so. I mean, I'm excited to see.
He is going to be in this one.
Yeah.
It posts in 45 minutes.
Are you gonna watch it with your family?
Hell yeah.
Show your
What are your weekend plans, Bill?
I'm gonna get drunk and cuss out the neighbors. How about you guys, America?
Yeah. Okay, so I would say I would have started from here. So the Sika kind of spreads flat and evenly, you know. It goes like sideways like this. Now you just like spreading it out a little bit. You feel it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then make sure that Sika is fine. We'll wipe it off.
Okay.
Yeah, just make sure we going down evenly. Yeah, you want to gently lay it down like this, and then
it starts going.
yeah, and then you can see you kind of try to bring it in where you want it, and then start pushing it down.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
I get nervous anytime like gluing is happening
It's okay.
because the clock's ticking.
No, this stuff will take a while. Especially
Okay.
to be cool out. Okay, so
Okay, and let's put the blocks on the corners.
which is good.
Should be like all the way down in the corner, but not crazy, not too crazy.
And that way you have room to tool it and smooth all this gap out. You know what I mean?
It's looking pretty good, and I think we are finished at this point. We're just gonna let it dry for over the weekend, and yeah, we'll just clean it up on the Monday. So that's pretty much it.
You say
Yeah,
it like
sorry.
it was so easy, but
Yeah, but it's not really easy. It's just something that we do here, you know, daily. So it's maybe it looks easy, but yeah, it's definitely not the easiest stuff to do. But you know, I do like enjoying this kind of stuff and something that I am good at, you know. So I feel like it's my thing to do. But definitely my pleasure to help, and you know, happy to help you guys.
all right, we're calling it a day at the end of week 11, day 5. The windshield just got glued in. Eugene was an absolute pleasure to work with, a wealth of knowledge, really, really meticulous with his skills, and he has a really good story too. He came here from Ukraine, already a pilot. He's working on his pilot certificates and ratings here in the United States. But decent progress this week, not a ton of visual changes except for on the inside, Omar got the console installed, Ken finished up doing all the leather prep and everything on the bench, and then this was the big one this week, along with control surfaces getting mounted. So Chelsea just finished that up. Earlier in the week, I finished putting all the control surfaces on the tail, horizontal stab, vertical stab, and then we just got the windshield glued in. And with that, we're calling it a week on Friday afternoon. It is the morning of week 12, day 1, and we are getting ready to peel the tape off of the windshield. We glued this on Friday afternoon, and Eugene is grabbing a couple tools, and he is going to help us start pulling all the masking off, and it's gonna be like a nice little reveal moment. Peeling everything off, and the glue is just gonna be in a nice bead inside and out. We'll uncover the glare shield and kind of push it back where it needs to go and get that permanently secured inside too, but it's gonna be really satisfying to peel the tape off the windshield. So one thing Eugene likes to make sure he does is wait until Friday afternoon to put a windshield on. That way, nothing else is going to be happening in the hangar or around the airplane for the rest of the weekend, and it can sit undisturbed so it can be totally cured. He just said that 2 days is more than enough. So Monday morning, about to pull the tape off.
So with the addition of this external DC generator that we spent some time installing the belt and the drive that comes off of the back of the crankshaft, we also just removed this piece. This is a belt guard. It's actually 3D printed and it lives right here. You can see where it gets installed. So because of the proximity of where this belt is and our exhaust system right here, we wanted to figure out a way to add some thermal protection while still leaving the holes here so that it can get airflow and breathe. So I just removed it, and right over here, I sourced some of this material. So this stuff, I don't know if I'm gonna say it correctly, but I think it's Tecnofibra. It is an Italian company that makes this stuff. So anytime a little portion of a flame starts to catch, it goes out. It's probably not very good to breathe, but this stuff is so impressive.
Cool. All right, entire windshield's protected. Cleaned, all the dirt's off, and it's protected. Eugene's gonna go move on to a different project now. He did a great job installing the windshield. We helped a little bit, but he really guided us and knows what he's doing there, so he trimmed away all the excess glue that got squeezed out, and we peeled the tape off, cleaned up both sides of the windshield, and then put an additional layer of plastic on it just to protect it because we're not done working on the plane. Stuff's still gonna be moving around, tools, there's dust in here, sanding on different things, so we just want to protect the windshield, so we put an extra layer of plastic. The glare shield's pushed back into place, and I think that'll get permanently secured at some point soon after all the interior stuff is done. So
my piece is complete, and I'm just going through and using my greasy fingerprints to get rid of some of the adhesive right here. I don't want it to collect dust over time in these areas, so I'm just making it a little less tacky. I'm gonna clean all this up, put it up, and install this back onto our external DC generator, little heat shield.
are you having a blast, Ken?
Oh yeah. So fun.
All right, I just took the center console out of the airplane, the beautiful leather construction by Ken. This is the rear side of it. So like imagine you're sitting in one of the back seats and you're like right behind the pilot's seat. This goes right in front of you. It's like down by your knee, your right knee if you're sitting on the pilot's side. These are holes for like headset cables to come through. So this is where your headset cable can come out for the front seats. And then right here, there's kind of an indentation in the leather. That is actually a hole that is pre-cut from the factory that is the perfect size to fit a cigarette lighter style kind of thing. You can get these on Amazon for like $6. This particular one is the PowerWorks USB-C power supply. I took that out from under the back seat. It kind of goes like behind the passenger's knees or right behind their calves if you're sitting in the back seat. So that's going to be USB-C power for like iPads, iPhones, whatever. I'm going to put a 12-volt socket right here inside the console facing backwards on its own breaker, and that is going to power what we think may be our future portable oxygen system. I'm not sure what we're going to go with yet, but it can't hurt to just have that additional power back there. Also, if we want to install a Starlink, that'll be a good circuit to have available too. Interchangeable, we can swap it for something that has a different connector at some point if we want to, whatever works. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut the hole for this, get a good visual bead on where that is, because that hole's already there, so that's where that'll go. And then I'm gonna figure out where the oxygen ports are gonna go. I'd like them to be higher rather than lower, just to keep them away from like feet kicking them or anything like that. So maybe put them right above it right there, right below the floor of the actual console in there. So that's what I'm gonna go ahead and cut that first and then see how it looks. Get a rough cut first. Okay, so now it's not that beautiful of a cut, but let me illustrate what it's gonna look like just with this USB-C power supply. This is not what's actually gonna go in there. It's just gonna be a cigarette lighter, but that would slide in there like that, and it covers up the rough edges. And then it would get tightened with that self-locking collar behind there. So that'll just be a cigarette lighter with a little rubber cap. There's a Sling 2 tail wheel. Those are relatively rare in North America. There's only a few of them. That's a pretty slick looking plane though. All right, it's another rainy day here. We're getting started just a little bit earlier than we normally do because supposedly a lot's gonna be happening today. I think the goal by the end of today was to be mating the wings, but it's pretty rainy outside. So they're kind of trying to cram the airplanes that are being worked on underneath doors and in the hangars more so than normal. So I do know that the prop governor and the prop are most definitely going to be going on today. Luis is already getting started on that, and I think Chelsea is kind of looking over his shoulder at what he's doing, looking at the manual and all that kind of stuff, because we need to understand these systems too. We're also building this airplane as an experimental, of course, so it's really nice to have all of these guys here that have done this so many times to walk us through these processes and really show us a visual representation of what the manual is calling for and how it needs to get installed, how they like to route cables, which is usually left up to the builder and all that kind of stuff. We get to lean on people who have built so many of these airplanes, which is awesome.
So this gasket is gonna be mated between the engine and our propeller governor, and it has a little screen right here so that if there are any contaminants coming through, it won't contaminate the rest of the system.
And this has a specific position. You can put it this way. It has to be this way.
So right before we put the prop governor on, we put a little bit of lubriplate on the gear, and it's gonna be gear driven from this gearbox, rotated by the engine itself, and then a little bit of the easy turn, which is like a fuel lube that you usually see people putting on all sorts of fittings. And then now is the bolt that is the hardest to get in.
All right, they just got the bottom bolt into the prop governor, and he said that the bottom one's the hardest one to get in, and it's actually a slightly different bolt because it has grooves in the head, whereas the other three don't. And that is so that it's the same material and everything, but that is so that you can use your fingernails to get it started in there. And then he has a little ratchet that he just gave to Chelsea that he made that she's gonna use to now drive that in the rest of the way. That is actually ground down to be a lot shorter to fit in the teeny tiny tight clearance at the bottom of that prop governor. So lots of little things. This is why it's awesome to learn from these people who have done it a million times.
And then now this one.
And at the end we go all
Check them all.
around, yeah. Got it.
Looks good.
That's it. You're set.
You think it'll stay?
Ready to, of course.
All right, I am getting ready to install the internal and external static toggle switch. Toggle switch meaning pneumatic. This is not electrical. So it's going to take input from the right hand and left hand static ports that are on both sides of the fuselage. And then right here is the output where the static line inside the airplane goes out to the avionics. And then right here is the vent for internal static. So this is going to go under the pilot side panel, like right by the pilot's right knee, to be able to toggle this back and forth. It's just an air valve. So I got a hole marked, and it's going to go in the standard spot that it goes in pretty much all TSIs. So I'm going to get that drilled. I have to kind of crawl under the panel to do it. That's the parachute cable way back there. So I don't want to interfere with that. We need to eventually make it to this hole right here. It's hard to believe, but it is even harder to climb under this panel than it is to get underneath Chelsea's panel in the 150. Okay, that's snipped. Now we're just ready for the static ports to go in these holes, and I think Chelsea's working on that right now. And then it's a bunch of zip tie. So what's going to happen today is we're going to hook up the pitot and the angle of attack lines from the pilot side wing to the fuselage. A couple of the guys are already working on the plane, doing a couple things firewall forward. Ken is working on little bits of the interior, and maybe later today we'll be installing the big side panels. That may just happen tomorrow, not totally sure. It's a cool, crisp, and clear morning here in Torrance, California. We're going to continue our build on our Sling TSI. Let's get to work. Okay, I just took the plate off the back of the console here. So this is where, this is basically facing the back seat passengers. So this is kind of in between both passengers on the center console, pilot and co-pilot seats up here. This is where your headset cables, so the jacks are inside the console and the cables can come out here. Just kind of keep it clean. Then there's a third hole right here that we ended up opening up. So it's there from the factory, but we covered it up with leather. I ended up opening that up so that I can put a 12-volt socket right here. This is going to be for a future oxygen system or any other higher power accessories. This is going to be on a 15-amp breaker. I already have the cable routed in the plane, so it's going to look like that. Perfect fit, very standard size, cigarette lighter, that kind of thing. Got this from the aviation department on Amazon, and that's that. So here's the mil-spec cable that's going to have the terminals for this guy on it. Just gently score the insulation, and then I'm going to terminate the shielding here. Crack the insulation off. Give it a good pull. So there's the shielding, the metal shielding on the cable. And then here are our two wires. High heat resistance Teflon. This is aircraft grade cables. These are called flag terminals. These are made of nylon. They're pretty good quality. So basically they just go right there, and that's going to be a 90 so that there aren't connectors sticking far out. They'll just immediately make a 90 and then run along the top right here is what my plan is. So those are going to get hooked up like this, and then it's going to make a turn right there. So I need to reroute that cable just a little bit. That will go back there, stay up, totally up and out of the way of the flap actuator. Oh yeah, nice. And it goes on just like that. 12-volt socket, 15 amps.
Nice.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, there is a spare breaker hole right here. I have a 15-amp breaker, which is going to go in that spot right there. Might have to move this cable a little bit to get it in there. Actually, I'm going to unscrew that and reclock it a little bit to make room. And then I'm going to connect this jumper to the bus bar, make sure it's not going to chafe anywhere. And then connect the line for the rear cigarette lighter thing. We've got to make sure this is all going to have room to run. Kind of go up this way, and then I want it to come around here, and we have the perfect length. Every now and then I have to pause and let the blood go back into my shoulders. Ugh. That through there. I'm crushing my ribs in here, but it's hooked up. This is a ground bus right here. So this is where I'm going to put a ground wire for this circuit. I'm going to secure that wire to that. So those are two feed wires connected to each other. That's fine. Snipped all those. All right, nice. So we have an additional 15 amp breaker right here. And this is the cable. I stopped the zip ties right there because I have some oxygen lines to run tomorrow. But that's all wired up with a circuit breaker, a good quality Clix-on circuit breaker. All right, everything's moving a little fast this morning. We're already getting started. Right back here are actually 2 TSIs in a row and a third one here in the hangar. All 3 of those are getting delivered to their customers today. So that's super cool, and that also makes room for our TSI. We've been pulled front and center, getting ready to put the wings on. So now we are kind of the priority in the finishing hangar. Now that these have gotten out of the queue and getting delivered to their customers today, all the issues are worked out. They're all tweaked and rigged, ready to go. But I really want to get the BRS parachute cable rigged. So this is the control ripcord that goes in the panel. That has to get routed under the floor. So we're gonna actually open up the box for the BRS parachute, take the control cable out, and I wanna route that under the floor. I also have the oxygen connectors and hoses that I wanna go ahead and connect to the pilot and co-pilot ports and route those under the floor to the back of the center console as well. We're preparing ourselves for a future portable oxygen system that we want to be able to put in and take out of the airplane whenever we want to use it or not. So it's week 12, day 4, Thursday morning. We're going to get to work on the airplane now in the center of the finishing hangar. The BRS parachute is one of the most important features that we are putting on this airplane for us. It's a huge, huge safety net. It's like driving a car with seat belts and airbags for general aviation. In general aviation, flying with a parachute is like the modern way to protect yourself when all else fails, when you have a catastrophic engine failure over an area where you have no landing options. If you are telling yourself that a good pilot will always be able to find a good landing spot and dead stick it in no matter what, and then I see those same pilots flying over densely wooded areas, over mountains, or at night in a single engine airplane, in my opinion, they don't know what they're talking about. You lose your engine at night, you will either glide it to a highway, glide it to an airport, and you may get lucky, but you cannot see where you're going in a densely wooded area, over hills like where we live, or flying over mountains during the daytime or whatever on a long cross country. Sometimes you're just in a little corner of your route where you have very, very few options, and the safest option would be to pull the parachute and safely float down.
This is the area where our BRS parachute will live, hopefully forever. Hopefully we will repack it and repack it every 10 years and never have to use it. But we have a game plan going on this, and we're gonna clean the plastic off of these cables. They're a stainless steel, heavy gauge cable. The ends are swaged to create the hooks, and all of this will hook into the parachute assembly. You know, it's just like having airbags in modern cars and shoulder harnesses. An additional safety feature that has been implemented into these slings, which was a huge decision point on why we wanted to go with the TSI among the million other things, but this was a big one. This was really big for us. So the BRS box is here. We've already started unboxing it. We've gone through a game plan on exactly how we want to prep this area. We have to apply a release agent and then silicone and everything so that it's, you know, watertight, and hopefully we won't see it again for another 10 years.
All right, I wired this guy up yesterday. So sitting here in the cockpit, we have 2 ports. We have co-pilot oxygen and pilot oxygen over there, the blue ring, and all of that's backlit. But I have some pneumatic air hose. This is made of polyurethane, which is what they use here in the shop too to run oxygen lines. And I think this is even the same color. So it's a lighter blue. There is a dark blue that is for the static system. That's up under the panel. You might be able to see a little dark blue line. So that's a pneumatic air hose just like this. I think it's even the same material. And then I also got some CPC connectors. So these are quick disconnect pneumatic hose fittings that are gonna take, so this is the, I believe this is the female one, and it has a check valve in there. And then this is the male that will basically, this is like kind of a similar fitting that's on masks and cannulas. So that will fit right in there, but we're not gonna use these exact ones. I'll use those for something else. So these CPC connectors are going to go right in there. And that, of course, the nut will be on the back. And that's gonna be a 1/8 inch hose barb, which I already checked, fits perfectly, really snug with these hoses here, and that's how we're gonna plumb oxygen. So to just explain how this is all gonna work, we're gonna have a co-pilot port and a pilot port. They're going to be plumbed and come through the panel, through the console, and there will be 2 more of those quick disconnect ports right here. And then this is gonna be a 12 volt socket, 15 amps. So we're thinking of using an oxygen maker, actually a pair of oxygen makers back here. So there will be one for the pilot, one for the co-pilot. They'll be powered right here, and they will hook up to individual oxygen ports that then will feed oxygen up to our front ports, and then we can just plug our masks or cannulas directly in up there. If we're flying with 4 people, we don't really have the space to have an oxygen system, and it'll take up a lot of space in the baggage area. And honestly, we'll probably not even be flying that high because it'll be a short trip most likely. So we will be able to remove that system and just unplug it, 2 oxygen hoses and a power plug, and then close it all up right there, and it'll be like nothing is even installed. So it'll be nice and clean. So that's what I'm gonna work on right now, installing these CPC connectors and then the oxygen hoses. So that guy is gonna go right there, nice and flush up against the panel. And then get my other hand up under here, thread that nut onto the back, and I'll get that more snug later, get a wrench on the back of it, but I don't want to get it too tight because it's just nylon. So yeah, you can open the fitting and then it locks open, and there's a little pin right there. When you push it, it unlocks it. So then, like, imagine this is your cannula or your mask, you just push it in and it locks it in place. And then you push to release. Go ahead and get this routed to where it needs to go. I think I may want to take the G3Xs out. And that can curl up. None of this is going to be visible. This is all going to have like a big leather piece over it. Go above this cable right here. Let me get that oxygen fitting snugged. The thing is, once I press it onto the CPC connector, it's freaking on. It is not coming off. This is incredibly comfortable. It's great. Everything's fine. It's fine. There goes one of the TSIs that got delivered to a customer today. They're all taken off, going on their demo and instructional flights and stuff. Chelsea's back here working on the fitment of the blowout plate that goes over the parachute. So it's a big plate that's painted the same color as the dark blue that we have on our paint scheme, and it's riveted in place, but the way the holes are drilled, it allows the plate to flex and pull away from all the rivets and jettison as soon as you pull the parachute handle. So they're working on the fitment of that, just getting it perfect. I just installed both CPC connectors for oxygen on the pilot and co-pilot side. I ran the pilot hose, routed it where it needs to go, hooked it up. I'm getting ready to start zip tying that.
So this piece right here connects to the ballistic portion of the parachute.
So when you pull it, it yanks that in. I'm not gonna go all the way in, of course, but that goes there. And then we have a disarmament pin that goes in there with a little ball lock so that you can't accidentally pull it. So kind of like an Osiris. You have a pin up here that locks the caps, the Cirrus airframe parachute system. When you pull that pin, then the handle is available to pull. We kind of have the same thing here. When you pull the pin, it like hangs down in front of the fuel selector. It's hard to miss. It's like a big remove before flight kind of thing. So that's how you arm and disarm the parachute. So this bracket that mounts the handle is going in. Get it snug. Don't need to crank down with 1,000,000 foot-pounds on this. It's just going into some riv nuts, and all it does is hold the handle in place. Just holds it perfectly centered in that hole. I think we're ready for this to go in. All right. And that gets screwed in right there. It's a nice rainy afternoon in Torrance here, and we actually got a lot done today. Got the brakes bled. I got oxygen routed, hooked up, all of that was done, and I finished bundling everything under the panel. And it's now 3:45. Chelsea's actually out doing something with Millie too. She has the dog, so she has the car. I have no ride. Yesterday ended up being super, super productive. First, we installed the BRS parachute control cable. So it's basically the ripcord that goes on the panel. It's a big red handle. You yank that and it deploys the ballistic recovery system that's in the back of the airplane. And it was a non-negotiable feature that we opted to install in our airplane. So we got the control cable in. I installed all of the oxygen lines, the oxygen fittings, the quick disconnects that go on the panel, as well as the quick disconnects that go on the back of the console, to basically connect those two together so that we can put a portable oxygen system in the back of the airplane and keep all of the wiring and the hoses behind the front seats. we really only foresee us using oxygen with 2 people in the airplane. If we're gonna have 3 or 4 people in the airplane, we're probably not going high, we're probably not going far, it's probably not gonna be a long trip, so we don't really need to carry oxygen unless we really, really want to. I think today, barring any changes, Ken is right over there working on the interior upholstery for another TSI, and as soon as he's done with that and gets to a stopping point, he's gonna come over here, and I believe he and Chelsea are going to install the big side panels that go on the walls of our airplane. Meanwhile, I think I'm gonna go over here and start working with maybe Eric, or it might be Luis, somebody to kind of guide me through installing the landing and taxi lights on the wings of this airplane. So we're using Whelen Par 36 Prometheus Generation 3 lights. We're gonna have 2 landing lights, 2 taxi lights. We have Aero LED 660 XPs. I believe those are the nav strobe position. Those are our wingtip lights. And we have a red tail beacon from Aero LED. That is the Aero LED Nano that's populated with red diodes. Super bright red beacon on the tail. And then lastly will be the Whelen Prometheus G3 lights that are gonna go on the leading edge. 2 landing, 2 taxi lights. Let's get to work.
This is a very painful process in the beginning because you have to take a little bit of sandpaper and go around your entire cowling area where your cowling meets and seats onto the portion of the airframe. And you just take a little bit of sandpaper and we're removing just the clear coat of the paint. Doing 2 things. We want to remove a little bit of the clear coat, and then we also want to make it a surface to where this adhesive chafe tape has a really nice area to grip onto. On my Cessna 150, I used like a 3M or an M3, I don't remember what it's called, chafe tape around my entire cowling. And that was only because I did not have this stuff. So this stuff kind of has a fiberglass netting and it's very, very sticky. And we're just gonna take it and put it all the way around where our cowling is gonna meet the airframe, so that over time, taking the cowling on and off for maintenance, doing oil changes, engine checks, whatever the situation may be, this area is really prone to getting chipped up and just a lot of wear over time. So to prevent that, this is what we're doing. We're just roughing this area up, and then we'll make sure that we clean it really well with a little bit of alcohol and a rag and make sure there's no contamination in this area. And then we'll use 1 continuous piece from down here at the bottom all the way around the engine, and it'll keep our paint nice for years and years to come.
I've got the manual pulled up for the layering of all of the hardware that goes together. So there's 2 plates that look just like this that have been painted black. That's these 2 parts, and then number 6 here is the landing light itself, and actually in the manual it calls for a Whelen Prometheus. So that's exactly what we have. I'll pull them out of the box here in a second. 2 of these plates, and then we're gonna get an M4 screw, and then on the back of the plates there's gonna be a spring. And that's how you can kind of tighten screws differentially, and you can actually aim the light a little bit. I'm gonna add 1 more little piece of hardware, and that's gonna be nylon washers underneath the head of all these button head screws. So I have everything right here. Eric went ahead and got all the hardware for me. This is the cable right here, and I'll swipe over to Midwest's wiring diagram. So this is the pinout for the wing harnesses. So these are the CPC connectors that are both on the wing side and on the cabin side. So this is actually the co-pilot wing. So this is the right side wing, which is gonna be wing 2. So I am gonna look for, in pin 5, landing light positive, and number 6 is taxi light positive. And then 7 and 8 are respectively the grounds for those circuits. So I'm gonna test continuity from those pins to here and identify which wire is which. I'm gonna pull the shielding back, pull the insulation back, pull the metal shielding back, and then terminate all of that with some heat shrink, and then terminate these into little ring terminals. Make sure there's enough slack to go to both lights right here. So these are the 2 holes that can take a Par 36 light. We're gonna put the taxi lights outboard because they're more of a floodlight. So we wanna make sure that the leading edge of the wing, is not going to shield the taxi light from lighting up the area in front of the cabin of the airplane, which will be over there. So we want the taxi lights to be over here, aimed almost inward a little bit, to throw a flood of light that will still make it at a pretty sharp angle. And then the landing lights are more of a sharp spotlight, so those are not gonna be as hindered by the leading edge of the wing. Those can point straight out. So Landing lights inboard, taxi lights outboard. Let's go ahead and identify these wires and make sure that we can get continuity between everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and strip this back and expose the wires and clean that up a little bit and get ready to do that. These are the lights we're using. Whelen Prometheus Generation 3 LEDs. This particular one is a taxi light. So in the South African factory's wisdom, I should have known, they already have all this labeled. So I shouldn't have to check continuity. I imagine that I could check continuity just to make sure, as an extra measure to make sure that before I install everything, it's not gonna be wrong, which will probably be wise, but that's good. So we have 4 wires here. I can go ahead and crimp ring terminals onto all 4 of them and then just check continuity here in a minute. I think masking tape is the worst tape known to man. It's like it's super gummy and sticky until you need it to stick to something. So this is a landing light. This is a taxi light. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull one of these screws out and just get the size of the ring terminal that I'll need. I'll go over to the stock and get 8 ring terminals, and then I'll be ready to install these guys in the wings. All right, Omar ended up finding the correct kind of ring terminals. These are, I believe the material is vinyl, but you get these from aircraft sprues. These are what should be on airplanes, not the super cheap, like AutoZone crap. The heat shrink type is pretty good too. Yeah, these are nice quality. This is landing light power and ground, and this is taxi light power and ground. So they're gonna go like that. All right. Here's the taxi light, identifiable easily because of the ridges there. Okay, so this first plate, they're actually slightly different sizes. This has a super tight tolerance on the back because it has paint on it, so it makes it a little tight. I'm setting these springs on with glue just to hold them in place because it's gonna be nearly impossible to get them on. I mean, I'm just putting like 2 teeny tiny little dabs, literally just enough to hold it. So that way it'll be much easier to install that right here. So the light and the plate can kind of like go in as one, then I can put the other plate over it and then start threading the screws in. And then once the screws are in, if the spring pops off, that's fine. It's held in by the screw. So I'm gonna let that dry. I need to file that one out just a little bit more because it's too tight of a tolerance, and then I need to find 2 other plates for the other wing. That's not a huge priority because I'm doing this wing, this wing right now, but that'll be my next step. So we'll see. I just gotta kind of get regrouped, and that gives that time to cure anyways. All right, with the springs stuck on there with super glue, sink this guy in there. Oop, already popped one off. This is gonna be a super delicate process. Landing light on the inboard side. Let me prep a screw with a nylon washer, and we'll drop the outer plate. All right, landing light is in. All right, 5 and 7, this should be landing light. And we got a landing light. 6 and 8, this should be the taxi light. We've got a taxi light. All right. All right, both lights are working. They're hooked up correctly, so we shouldn't have to take them back apart again. And then we will snug down the screws to get them aimed where we need them to be later on. But the taxi light has a nice wide band, and then the landing light is a nice focused beam. And they are pinned correctly. They're lighting up correctly. Everything's good, so I think this one's done. All right, taxi outboard, landing inboard. Let's go ahead and test them. And pin 7, so when I turn this on, we should get a landing light. All right, we've got a landing light. And then let's go pin 6 and pin 8 for the ground. This should be the taxi light. We've got a taxi light. Beautiful. All right, I am totally done with the project of installing the taxi and landing lights in both wings of the airplane. This is the pilot side wing. Other side's the co-pilot side. They're not totally aimed and set where we want them to be yet. We'll basically kind of press them in, make sure they're totally flat, and then adjust the screws little by little to get the lights aimed where we want them to be when that time comes. That's going to be a little bit closer once the wings are mounted on the airplane and everything. Whelen and Aero LED make absolute quality LEDs for aircraft use, and we're so stoked to have the entire airplane equipped with them. So that project is done. Chelsea is now inside the airplane working with Ken, sinking riv nuts. Right now they're just drilling and putting clecos in to secure the big, beautiful leather side panels that go in, that kind of go down by your feet, and then they're basically like what the whole side panel is when you're sitting in the airplane. So Luis just finished rigging up the long-range transfer pump that pumps fuel out of the outboard tank, the long-range tank, and into the main tank. It's all hard lines and stuff like that, so we're gonna go take a look at it.
Okay, we have this fuel pump, transfer pump. This is the line that comes from your external tank, from the tip tank, and comes around. We have a T here because this is the return line from the engine and goes to the tank. And this is the main line that goes to the engine. And that's it. Simple.
Very simple.
Yep.
It's coming together. We got the big side panels done right here, the front two. And then we'll do the back two later.
What are you doing for Thanksgiving?
Ooh, I'll be at my family's house and just have relatives over and my girlfriend. And that's the plan. Yeah. So nothing too
Girlfriend's
crazy.
coming to visit.
Yep.
Who do you
He's
like?
been talking about it all week.
Oh my god.
Okay, so whenever I to install these side panels here, the first step is going through and drilling holes in all the areas that are on the diagram. And then we upsize the holes to receive these riv nuts. Put a little Loctite on the riv nut, pull it, and then while I was installing the panel on, we realized that one of the riv nuts was spinning. I guess I didn't tighten it enough or something. And then the M4 screw was stuck, the riv nut was spinning, the panel was on, all a whole mess, so I had to call in the team. And they're working on trying to get this out, and we're just trying to decide what the next course of action is, because we don't have access to the back of this panel here. Our access ends with these rivets right here. So if we drill it out, then we lose that tail. They just tried to tap it and re-pull it, and what's the verdict?
I don't think it worked.
Oh.
He knows what.
The other problem is, it is 3:45 on a Friday. These guys have been working overtime all week, and I'm sure they're so ready to go home.
It's
No?
okay. We'll just blame you. No, I'm joking.
Spin it a little. Can you put a timer on for 5 minutes?
This guy's crazy.
Okay. So since it's spinning right, we know that the hole's already like kind of damaged. As long as we don't damage any of the surrounding area, we're gonna oversize it and just put the oversized M4.
I've created a mess.
Created a mess. No, you made a mistake. You want to see what I've created?
Yeah.
What did you create? A mess.
What if you move the camera like this and then just pull it like that? You know what I mean?
I think I would end up just pushing it further. All right, while we are all hands on deck with the bore scope, James got it out with the claw.
Woo! We can all go home now.
I actually got a lottery ticket.
All right, we are calling it a week here at the airplane factory. It's Friday evening. We're actually staying a little bit later. It's almost 5 o'clock, and the sky is kind of exploding with like this orange and pink colors. Really, really awesome way to end week 12 of our build here. A lot of progress this week. The beginning of the week was kind of slow because there were some other airplanes that needed to get moved around and needed some attention here. Chelsea's taking Millie on a little bit of a run. But in the latter part of this week, so yesterday being Thursday and today Friday, we really nailed down a lot of progress. Yesterday was actually very busy doing all the oxygen stuff, installing the parachute handle, and then now today I got all of the wheel in, landing, and taxi lights installed. Chelsea worked with Ken to install a bunch of the side panels, the bigger side panels that are going into the airplane. And then just some different odds and ends. Some engine work happened. Luis installed one of the long-range transfer pumps that pulls fuel from the long-range tank and dumps it into the main tank in that wing. We got one of those pumps in. The next one's gonna arrive on Monday, so we'll do the other one next week. We also installed the empennage. The prop got installed. This airplane is really coming together. Next week is the week of Thanksgiving, and it's gonna be a shorter week. So Monday through Wednesday is when we're actually gonna be working on the plane. Some guys are already taking the whole week off, so we're gonna be on our own with a couple things, but that's good because we have kind of a laundry list of little things we wanna tweak. We wanna move this hose and space it, put a standoff on this loom of wires to fix this, just all kinds of little things like that. So I think that'll be a lot of what's happening next week. But in the next video of this build series, we will be turning the starter and starting the engine. And that's gonna be a pivotal milestone in the build of our Sling TSI. Don't forget, just one alleyway over and the other hangars is Sling Pilot Academy. If you wanna get $1,000 off your full flight training course at Sling Pilot Academy, you can use referral code Aviation101 on your enrollment form or scholarship application. Those are linked below. Thank you so much for tuning into this build series and sticking with us all the way to this point. We're getting ready to mate the wings and start the engine of our Sling TSI. We are so grateful and so happy that we're here to work alongside all these awesome people, learn from them, make this airplane truly ours with all of these customizations and just little fine tweaks to give us that ultimate peace of mind that this airplane is set up exactly how we want it to be. It's the beauty of experimental, it's the beauty of a Sling. I am over the moon excited to be a Sling TSI owner, and we're so close. In the next video, we'll be starting the engine. So until next time, you know the drill. Stay happy and healthy, stay current in your flying. Most importantly, stay proficient. If you train hard, you'll fly easy. We'll see you in the next build video right here on Aviation 101.